Well, Martinus wrote this little book, The Ideal Food, in I think it was 1933. It was immediately after the Book of Life, Volume 1, came out, because it was very important for Martinus to describe what he calls the microcosmos, the life within our organism. We consist of organs and cells and molecules and smaller particles, and all of those are living beings. They experience life in principle in the same way as you and I do. So, actually, it's one of the very new things in Martinus's cosmology is his whole description of this inner world, that it's an inner universe that experiences life very much as we do. So he wrote two books about microcosmos after Liebesbo, the Book of Life, number 1, The Ideal Food, and the book on funerals, which deals with how to deal with the microcosmos after death and how the microcosmos reacts to the way we think and the way we feel. But you asked about eating habits and health. There are several consequences that come from eating meat. And Martinus makes it very clear that he's not criticizing meat eaters, but he's analyzing the whole nutritional question. And he says that there are different kinds of eating that are, or different forms of nutrition that are appropriate for different steps in evolution. And eating meat is something that really belongs to the beasts of prey, predators, the animals like lions and tigers and so on. But since that stage we have become rather refined. Our organisms are much more refined than lions and tigers. Our mentality has become more refined. We're much more loving and generous than they are, and so on. And we can't really tolerate meat, chicken, fish, and so on, in the way that we could before. On one level, it's a great burden for our organism because digesting meat takes a lot of energy. It's a great strain on the organism. So that's one level. On another level, you're actually taking the animals' lives. You're shortening the animals' physical lives by eating them. And of course this has consequences in terms of karma. He talks about the law of cause and effect, or the law of karma. It's not a kind of punishment, but it's a consequence. Every action has its consequence. And he said one of the consequences of taking lives is that your own life will be, in a way, taken or shortened. So you run the risk of dying prematurely, perhaps in an accident or something. Because when you kill animals, it's based on the superstition that you need to eat animals in order to live. It's not because you hate the animals. There are no bad feelings involved. You may even have a pet dog or a cat that you really love and so on, but you have this idea that you have to eat meat in order to survive, and it's a very ingrained idea because we've lived like that for thousands of years. So you don't hate the animals, but you kill them anyway because you feel you have to. But one of the consequences of this is that you could be killed in an accident, for example, in a car accident or a plane crash or something, where again there are no hard feelings involved. The car driver wasn't usually trying to kill you, or the pilot, or whatever. So it could be one of the consequences. I should emphasize, however, that there can be other causes for car accidents and plane crashes and so on. But it's just an example that what you send out returns to you. What you reap, you sow. So there is a law of cause and effect. So that was the effect on your microcosmos, that you strain your organism by eating meat, and the consequence for your fate, in the sense that to the degree that you shorten other living beings' lives, you risk your own lives being shortened. Another aspect is anxiety, that animals suffer great anxiety at the hands of man, and a lot of people suffer from a sort of inexplicable anxiety. They don't know where it comes from, they don't know what the cause is, and there can be many causes, but one of them can be a consequence of the anguish that one causes the animals. They're brought up in what looks like concentration camps, so it's not the most ideal life for an animal. To live all your life, to be born in a concentration camp and live your entire life there and be slaughtered at the end of it in terrifying circumstances. So all of that has its consequences. But again, it's not a punishment, it's cause and effect, and the effects change our way of thinking, and we can see that a lot of people are becoming vegetarian today. And Martinus thinks he states that vegetarian is the future. Vegetarianism is the future. That at the moment, the ideal food for us is a mixture of coarser vegetarian foods like grains and bread, pasta, rice, wheat, and so on, and the more coarse root vegetables and lighter vegetables and fresh fruit. But as we evolve even further, well, and he also says that dairy products are all right for what he calls the vegetarian beginner, without saying how long one is a beginner, but of course that's something one decides for oneself. But later on, as we evolve further towards being real human beings, we will drop the coarser vegetarian products and live exclusively on fruit. But we're not there yet, and it's not any idea to try living like that at the moment, because our digestive system is built to take a lot of fiber. And even further on in evolution, when we become real human beings, then we will be able to live on air. And one can even say at the moment that our most important source of nutrition is air. We can live quite a long time without food. We can live a few days without water, but we can't live very many minutes without air. So at the moment, air is our most important source of nutrition. So what we see is a humanizing of the whole principle of nutrition through evolution. We'll reap the consequences of our inhumanity to the animals, and this will mean that we gradually stop killing the animals in order to survive ourselves. And at some point this process will be complete and we'll be real human beings. Some people say, well, what about drugs and alcohol and tobacco? They're vegetarian products, but they're artificial stimulants, and they have no place in the human organism. They're an enormous burden for the organism, and the organism has to work very hard to get rid of them. Drugs have the unfortunate effect that they influence your brain and your psychic, your mental abilities, and they can disturb your spiritual structures, so that you will reap the consequences of taking drugs. If you've done it for a sufficiently long time, you'll reap the consequences not only in this life, but perhaps in coming lives, where you'll have difficulty in creating a normal organism. So he regards taking drugs as a rather serious business. And of course, smoking doesn't only affect the lungs, it affects every cell in your body. So it's not being very kind or loving to your microcosmos to take these or use these artificial stimulants.